Following the death of a Washington resident, the home was inspected and there were 170 jars of food that were found inside of the home that the resident had canned himself. I think that the most likely organism that caused this is Clostridium botulinum. That produces a neurotoxin that causes botulism. Clostridium botulinum produces endospores, which are impossible to kill inside of the human body alone. Endospores can survive in temperature up to 100 degrees Celsius for hours, not minutes, hours. In order to prevent growth of endospores during the canning process, the sealed cans must be boiled in a minimum temperature of 185 degrees Fahrenheit for a minimum of 5 minutes. These are the standards that I found on the World Health Organization website as I was researching this topic. I also think that it's incredibly important to make sure that you are sanitizing your jars in between use. I have several friends who can their own food and do all of this stuff, and so upon talking with them, they were telling me that they still use their pressure cooker and all of those materials to be able to sanitize their jars in between uses. And that's just really important and just a really good practice when you're doing any sort of canning or preserving food in your own home. It's a lot different than a big manufacturing plant who has all of these machines that do this entire process for you. And it's all timed and all of that. So I just think it's a really good practice when you're doing this at home that you're setting a timer for your sanitizing and that you're allowing those jars to cool before you actually place any of the food inside of it that you're wanting to preserve. Clostridium botulinum endospores are anaerobic, which makes the environment of canning in a preserved jar completely perfect for them because during that canning process, when you are cooking the food inside of the jar, you are taking all the oxygen out of that environment, and that is just creating the perfect place for the bacteria to be able to multiply. The lack of oxygen in the sealed environment, again, has created the perfect environment for the endospores to grow and contaminate the preserved food. A sign that the food has been contaminated by Clostridium botulinum would be that on the top of the jar, there's that metal ring. And so there would be a bulge. And so normally when you're canning food, think of it like a pickle jar. It has kind of that dip in the middle, and that lets you know that it's sealed and that it's fresh. So once you open that button sort of pops, and so you can actually push on it, and that lets you know that yes, there's oxygen in that environment now. And so it's the same thing with the jars of food that you have at home. So that top of that metal part will be bulging. Also, when you're grocery shopping, I have learned to not buy bulging cans of food through my work and doing all my food certification. I know that people buy things that are like dented because they think that they're cheaper, but dents obviously can create a hole which allows oxygen in and creates a lot of bacteria. But a bulging can that is still sealed is a sign that there is gases that are being released inside and that there's something funky going on inside of that can, and you probably don't want it. Based off of the oxygen requirements, Clostridium botulinum is not capable of growth on a surface that it is exposed to oxygen. The bacteria is anaerobic, and so it cannot survive. It cannot grow in an environment where there is oxygen. The bacterium, however, can flourish in soil, which is actually where it's found. And because of the reason of it not being able to grow and flourish in an oxygen environment, this is an obligate anaerobe. Thank you.